Namaste. Good evening, everybody. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. So good to be able to get together. This is our first satsang of the new year. So with all my heart, with all my love, I welcome you to our program tonight. And great to be able to get back together again. And so I wanted to start with the New Year's blessing. It went out in the e-newsletter. And a way of invoking the new beginning and the expansiveness of heart and consciousness that new beginnings help us summon. So, New Year blessing. May you meet the new year with all the majesty, generosity, and compassion radiating from your pure heart of wisdom. May the trials you endured in the past empower you now to live and love fearlessly in the new year. And may you discover all the blessings of the new year giving you exactly what you need to meet whatever lies on your path with a loving heart and a calm mind. May the new year unfold the blessings of loving connections and the support of dear friends, sharing their gifts of dedication and selfless service with the world. May your experience of each new moment reveal the wonder, joy, and love of the eternal expressing itself in the field of time. Now, Happy New Year. Blessed New Year. Jai Ma. Great to be able to be together this evening. And so, this is our gathering for diving into some practices and contemplating practices and teachings. And we start with invoking, again, also what's the highest approach to that? What's our dedication? What's our aspiration? Why are we engaging in this? And so we start out with that highest understanding that we're engaging in these profound, sacred practices that have been passed on from teacher to student for thousands of years, helping people become free of the mind so they can come to know the absolute fullness of being, known by so many different names and different traditions, but coming home to the truth of who we are beyond the ordinary mind. And that empowers us to then help others to become free. So our intention is both to get free and to be able to help all beings become free of suffering. And to be able to pass on the gifts that we've received through practices, through grace, through teachings, so that we've both imbibed them, come to know the truth of these sublime and infinite teachings, and live them into the world for the benefit of all beings. So thank you for being ones doing that, and coming this evening with the power of your presence, the power of your practice and dedication, and being ones engaging in that, and then walking into the world in your own lives, in your own ways. This is so important. We see this. We see what happens when there's not enough of that right now. Because, in the Eastern traditions, this age, well, it's known as the Dark Age. Kali Yuga, Kali meaning dark. And dark because it's missing the light of compassion, of kindness, of love, of wisdom. The truth of who we are. The light that is already inherent within each and every one of us. But if we've gotten distracted by the mind, identified with the mind, caught up in the limitations of the mind, and caught up in all the pain and suffering it endures, and looks in the wrong place of how to get happiness, how to get free of suffering, how to find genuine, lasting peace, joy, equanimity. So it does this by trying to possess things. It does this by trying to assuage its negativity, by distracting itself with going after this, possessing that, dominating this, exploiting that, getting more, going after power, going after consumption. This is what our, unfortunately our society and our culture and our politics and our economic system drives people to. So we, who are doing practices to look beyond that and to know that and have had experiences of what it is to come to rest within ourselves, to feel the fullness that can blossom in a moment, that tells us, oh, this is where to go. It's not going to be found out there. And eventually, each and every being across lifetimes evolves to the point where that insight becomes stronger and stronger, so that we really turn our attention away from all the things of the outer world, take care of them in a dharmic way, but not look to them for what they cannot provide. The ephemeral will never give what the eternal already has. So when Buddha talked about the eternal existence of pure being, beyond words, beyond being, non-being, the closest he'd come to was talking about the four immeasurables, the boundless loving compassion, the boundless wisdom, the boundless rapturous joy, the unshakable equanimity. These are the quality of that state of consciousness. There's not four qualities. It's like that is the best that words can try to point beyond the existence of mind to get at what is totally unimaginable. So even those exalted kinds of words pointing at the four immeasurables are really just a hint. We have to go there and know that for ourselves. So that's why we engage in the practices. That's why we come together in a group, a sangha, and contemplate these and share the wisdom that we have. But it's a time for going into this kind of sacred space of contemplative looking past the mind. And the kind of prompts, the kinds of contemplative practice that we do with that come from words that have been written, that have come through me, and we've done this course a number of times in the past, using Kali's Bazaar, using Om My Beloved, using Gently Falls Her Rain of Light. Well, now there's the Devi, the Great Mother, keeps giving more and more. And so there's a new collection that we're looking to get out probably by the middle of this year. But we're going to start, even though it's not published yet, we're going to start with that. And the title of this new work is Invite Them In, she said. Invite them in. What are we invited into? Direct knowing. Invited into the heart of being. This is what we're called to. And we really listen to the divine, the infinite. We'll hear that call. It doesn't summon us into the ordinary world of the senses. We've explored that for lifetimes. It's time to explore her domain, its domain, the domain of the infinite, the heart of our being, the truth of who we are beyond the mind. So this is a course that invites us to enter that space and be able to explore it, abide in that, because it is the antidote to the pain and suffering of the world. The pain and suffering of the world is really the pain and suffering that the mind caught up in looking for joy amongst things that are going to perish always, come and go, looking for peace among things that are always changing and have no solidity, no stability to them. So the mind is looking in the wrong place. That's what the mystic traditions, all mystic traditions, have pointed us to, and especially the meditative and contemplative traditions of the East, that this state is knowable. We have to do a different set of practices than what the world gives us. So we have to give our attention to turning within, making use of the practices that shift our attention. And when we do that, that's when we start to even be able to discern. Well, with meditation, for instance, I mean, that's part of what we do here. We do make use of mantras, these sacred vehicles empowered by the infinite to draw us beyond the mind, and then to enter a state, a shift in states. So it's not the waking state, it's not the dream state, it's not even the deep sleep state. We're familiar with those. This is an entirely different state. Meditation is a different state than the ordinary mind is used to. Because the ordinary mind is locked into those three states. Beyond that, the ordinary mind no longer exists. Entering the state of meditation, we leave behind the ordinary mind. That's why it opens a state of radical freedom, radical knowing, unspeakable, unimaginable. This is a state of consciousness that's already fully present, already fully existent. The mind can't develop that. The mind's given practices to help calm the mind, to help discipline the mind, to help focus the mind, to help train the mind to detach, to help train the mind to not be reactive, because these things occlude our vision. But when our vision is occluded, the truth is still there. We just can't experience it because our attention is bound up with all the content of the mind, the thoughts of the day, the feelings of the day, the reactions to the news, the this and that. So by the mind constantly getting engaged in this outward flow of attention, it actually becomes weakened. It loses power, it loses strength. And exhausted, it falls asleep at night, goes unconscious. How do we wake up replenished when we've done nothing, consumed nothing, given attention to nothing? Because we've drawn closer in that stillness. Unknowing, unconscious, we've drawn closer to the truth of who we are. That is the source of our life, our prana, our Shakti, our energy, our consciousness. So meditation as a practice is about shifting towards that. So all the different meditative practices across all different traditions are all aimed at working with the mind. The infinite, the Buddha nature, Christ consciousness, however we might speak of that boundless state, already fully perfected, fully present, right here, right now, always, right here, right now. Just the other side of the mind. To get beyond the mind, we do the practices. So the practices help us to calm the mind. Because one of the things that we see, and you'll see this all the time as you're practicing, right? The mind loves movement. You sit to be quiet and still. Say, in the stillness and the silence, one can come to know the infinite. That's spoken of in so many traditions. But you try to become still and silent, and then blah, 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 blah. The mind is doing this, the body's doing that, the sounds out here. And the mind goes after all of them, because they're all movements of mind. Perceptions of through the senses, perception of mind content, thoughts, feelings, memories, imagination, fantasies about the past or the future, all mind stuff. The mind gets caught in them because it habitually gives attention to its own self, its own content. In fact, that's all the mind is a string of content that cherishes itself. The last thing it wants is to just disappear in stillness, because it goes, wait a minute, I'm going to disappear. So we have to introduce it to that it's okay, you're not really disappearing. And in fact, other things are going to unfold that you're really going to like. So we tell the mind very nicely, it's okay, just calm down, discover what will unfold as the spaciousness of being, the freedom that is perfectly present. So what we're doing practices over time, they're transforming the mind. So meditation as a practice, it might be, how do we sit? How do we regulate our breath? How do we do a mantra? a throb of the infinite, so that the mind has something to engage in that isn't just of the mind, it's of the nature of the infinite. Om Kali Ma, Om Kali Durge Ma. Great mantra, invoking the infinite, the feminine face of the infinite, Kali and Durga. Very similar to Black Tara. In fact, all the Taras really came out of the traditions of the tantric awareness in the Hindu yogic tradition in India of Kali and Parvati and Sundari and Saraswati, all marvelous faces of what is faceless. It wears a face because we need something to connect to until we discover that, oh, we go beyond it all. So the practices that are helping to quiet the mind, helping us to be able to see then what could be beyond the mind, well, they're transforming the mind. So we understand meditation is also related to a set of practices. It's also related to a transformative process. The mind is transformed. It's disciplined. The practices help to teach it, oh, what's going to really work better than the ordinary way of just wandering around the world looking to, what do we consume, what are we attracted to, what do we avoid, all that stuff that has not brought us any lasting happiness or peace, regardless of how long we may have been looking there. The practices turn our attention. They then are done over time. And so meditation is also a transformative process. It's transforming the nature of mind. It's transforming the body. So the body is less reactive. The body is more at ease. And so this transformative practices and transformative process are aimed at the mind because it helps get the mind out of the way. So that we really want to experience what's beyond the mind, we've disciplined it, not to go after every thought, not to bring up every reaction. And it's why, in again, the Eastern mystic traditions, whether especially Buddhism and yoga, Hinduism, there are set practices for helping to calm the mind all day long. Because let's face it, if we've been reactive all day and the news has impacted us and relationships and work and all this stuff, and it might be illness or health or all kinds of things impacting us, and then we sit there and go, okay, I'm going to meditate now. Well, the mind is all over the place. Now we're trying to reel the mind in from, 20 different directions, and maybe finally after 20 minutes, half an hour, it starts to get calm, and then the mind's going, I'm getting bored, I want out of here. So that can be changed by doing practices all day. That's why meditative practice isn't just the sitting and eyes open or eyes closed, engaged in mantra, watching the breath, whatever that practice might be. What's going on with the mind all day long? How do we reel it in all day long? Well, one of the great refuges for the mind, for helping it to become more calm and steady, detached and aware, right, is to take refuge in mantra, to make use of mantra practice all day long. Because so much of what the mind is doing is kind of garbage thinking during the day. And why not have it just repeating mantra all day? Whether it's Om Mani Padme Hum or Om Kali Ma or Om Namah Shivaya, just silently in the mind, keeping it collected and keeping it aware that its real existence rests on the eternal, the infinite, of which the mantra is a throb and can keep us informed by that, even inspired by that, even allowing for the power of your own self to shine into the mind and change its ways of acting in the world and thinking, to become more aligned with the highest truth. So we do those kinds of practices. Another great practice that, again, done all day long is seva, selfless service. Because again, part of what sadhana, the overall kind of spiritual practices we do is aimed at reducing the prominence of the ego mind, the domination of the ego mind that fills our consciousness so often, so continuously, again, until we're exhausted and fall asleep. In fact, if we can't let go, we can't even fall asleep. There's a letting go that has to happen even just to fall asleep. But it's also why people discover, as they get more discipline in their practice during the day, they sleep better. They let go because they realize that's not where their attention needs to rest. But during the day, when we're doing selfless service is another way of eroding the primacy of the ego mind, of being able to hold it in perspective. The ego mind is just here to be a great servant of the infinite, of your true nature, to express your sublime nature, however you might think of that, but that divine nature, whose nature is love, compassion, patience, kindness, generosity, wisdom. The little mind is always thinking, oh, I didn't get this, it's always reacting. So when it's busy reacting, it's not at service of your highest nature. So that doesn't come through. Not only does it not come through, you don't even experience it. Because we're so identified with the mind and its reactivity and its content that we lose the boundless one over and over. We lose it to this rubble of thoughts, feelings, memories, sensations. A Buddha called the 5 skandhas, these heaps of content that keep us involved in this cycle of suffering. But we can get free of that. So the practices and renewing our intention, that aspiration that we want to get free and we want to be in a state that then empowers us to free others. And how do we do that? Yes, we do meditation. Yes, we do sitting practices. But we do selfless service all day long. Right, His Holiness the Dalai Lama once was asked, well, how much time should one dedicate to taking care of oneself? He said, oh, about 10%. All the rest is seva. It's karma yoga. It's selfless service. Yeah, 10%, you need to take care of the body, the vehicle, the mind, those kinds of things. But even in doing those, we can have the attitude that, oh, I'm taking care of this vehicle that it may serve. So that even when we're doing practices that have to do with self-maintenance, we dedicate it. We add that dimension of remembrance when we sit to eat. Oh, let this food empower me to have the health and vitality to serve others. As I sit to eat, let me remember all the beings that went into having this food be available to me here and now. And the elements that came together, the sun, the water, the earth, the moon, everything that goes into life on this planet that we consume to sustain our own life. So when we're being mindful in these ways and dedicating our actions in these ways, it uplifts us. It expands our consciousness. It takes us out of the contracted confines of the ordinary ego mind so we can live in that. Even in the midst of everyday life, the world isn't going to change. It's our experience of the world that changes because our attitude, our way of looking, our way of seeing, we're transforming the mind which views the world through the lens of its own self. So we're bringing that view into alignment with our highest nature by clearing the impediments, the restrictions, all the conditioned ways we've been taught from the time we were born on of how to look at the world, how to look at others, how to look at different religions, how to look at different races, how to look at different ethnicities, all these things that are so conditioned and a part of human existence that don't serve. They're not aligned with the highest truth of our unity. that all beings are seeking happiness, love, compassion, that there's enough abundance in this world for all of us to flourish together? So we become aligned throughout the day. And then those four immeasurables that Buddha talked about, or what the yogis talked about as three qualities. Infinite, boundless quality of being, sat, being, conscious being. So chit, it's conscious. And ananda, it's rapturous, joyous, boundless, loving ecstasy. But unrelational, that's its very nature. It's not, oh, I love you because, or there's not a conditioning about it. That's its pure nature. Like the sun's nature is light and warmth. The nature of your boundless being are these qualities. To know that, we do the practices. And the more motivated we are to do the practices, the more we want to do them all day, because they begin filling us with those qualities, the experience of that. We start to feel, this is why it's often depicted as the nectar that flows from the Sahasrara. The Sahasrara is the infinite, the center of consciousness that's said to reflect that. The light is a 1,000-petaled lotus. It's symbolic. It's this boundless consciousness that when it infiltrates the mind and body, it begins to suffuse the mind and body with that rapture, with that joy, with that fullness, with that wisdom, with that love, with that compassion. And when we have that fullness, we're not trying to squeeze things out of other people. We're not annoyed or irritable because they're not giving us what we need, what we deserve, what we're entitled to, all the stuff that the ego mind gets involved with. To get free of that, rest in the abundance of the truth of who you are. You lack nothing. Live that. Live that into the world. That's what empowers us to then help relieve the suffering of others. Because we're not coming there with a begging bowl and just wanting more and more in the same way that everybody else is going through the world, trying to extract more and more of what they think they need, only because they've become identified with emptiness, with lack, with want, with need, the limitations of mind and body, not knowing the infinitude of being. It sets the whole drama of suffering in motion. So we do the practices exactly to get free of that perspective. And to give us the wisdom to see what's unfolding in the world is unfolding out of that ignorance. And people who are not at all looking to get free of ignorance, they're looking to try to satisfy and so permanently satisfy that they get more and more and more and hoard and billions and billions and trillions, thinking that that's going to make them filled. Never will happen. That's why there's never enough for them. It's a black hole. Because the hole is a delusion that will never be filled by anything. So we can have compassion even while we want to contain people acting in that way and stop them and shift and bring truth and wisdom into the world. But we can see it's the same paradigm that the ordinary mind operates out of, only it's all that more inflated. And destruction it does is all that more ghastly. So we have to stand for the truth. So in this age too of Kali Yuga, we stand for Dharma. We don't stand on the sidelines. We stand for Dharma. We say, wait, that's not true. We stand for it. We stand up to those people acting in these sort of violent and destructive ways. We stand up with truth and say, no, loving compassion is the way. Freedom and peace, these are the ways, even while they're engaging in violence. And we had great exemplars of that in Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King and others. So we're called on in this time to stand for Dharma. That's part of the selfless service. That's part of our karma yoga. It's part of our path, is to bring that into the world and to help relieve suffering by helping to get, our political system aligned with the truth, help getting politicians aligned with the truth, supporting politicians who are aligned with it. This is all dharmic work. This is all part of sadhana. It's all part of our practices. This practices, they engage all of life. There's nothing left out. So that is how we're empowered to also support helping to shift the conditions so that they can move again towards helping all beings be free of suffering, including all the beings who are animal and other living beings on this planet who are suffering extinction because of the actions of humans. So our consciousness really expands, and our realm of dharmic action expands. And with that, we feel that expansiveness, that we can really embrace everything and help to transform that, help relieve suffering in any way that we can, and be dedicated to that. That's what helps to then make the mind the servant it's meant to be, and not the master of our consciousness moment by moment. It's there to serve that impulse to bring love, compassion, wisdom, kindness into the world and be effective in these ways. And we're all carriers of that. Equally so, we equally have the fullness of that as the root of our being. So we do the practices in order to do that. And by doing them all through the day, then we're not indulging in the mind's reactivity all day long. And then expecting to be able to sit down and it's all going to be collected and it's just going to, okay, I'm ready to disappear. No, it's still reverberating from all this stuff. So practices done throughout the day support the deepening and the expansiveness of access to the state of meditation when we sit. Until ultimately, that state can be known regardless of the activity of the mind. That state is unbroken. The ordinary states of waking, dream, and deep sleep, they're discontinuous, they're broken. You're in a waking state, you're not in the dream state. If you're in the dream state, you're not in the deep sleep state. Meditation transcends and subsumes. Your meditative consciousness is fully present here and now. It's only identification with the content of mind that separates us from that experience of infinitude of being. But ultimately, we get to live that, informed by that, transparent to that, regardless of what we're doing, what actions we're engaged in. As long as we have disidentification with mind and body. The mind and body are there, they don't hold all our attention, all our consciousness, and thus bind them and limit them to this limited vehicle. Vehicle remains. Nothing wrong with the vehicle. It's going to learn to serve better. But the infinite consciousness, that's what we want to know, and then experience how that radiance comes through us into our everyday lives, just as they are, into our everyday relationships, just as they are. That we are carriers of that wisdom, that light of wisdom. So that's why we gather here together, and that's why we do the practices. And what we're going to do now is we're going to do a practice for a few minutes of chanting. And one of the great mantras, an invocation of the highest, Om Kali Durge Ma. And Kali is a form of the divine. That's known as the feminine face of the divine. And there are very many archetypal depictions of Kali as the great black goddess. In the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, she's Black Tara. I'm depicted as dark blue. But the same consciousness, right? So this consciousness, and again, we have to not get lost in the forms that she reveals herself to, different times and different cultures. We have to know the consciousness that's behind that. And that consciousness of the infinite one can wear a feminine face, can wear a masculine face. Shiva, Buddha, whoever that might be, Christ, all the different forms. They're forms the infinite takes to make it relatable to, so that we can go from the form beyond into the formless. The mind is form. It starts by relating to form most easily, and then can dissolve into what's beyond that. So Om Kali Durge Ma. We'll be chanting that, invoking that as that primordial awareness. It's the primordial radiance of awareness that is illuminating everything that you're experiencing right now. Every thought, every feeling, every sensation, whatever's on the screen, whatever's in the room where you are, is illuminated by that light of consciousness that is referred to as that mantra, that is a throb of that mantra. So that's what we're going to be chanting. And we'll just chant that for a few minutes and then sit in the stillness. The mind moves, just keep it going with mantra. You can combine it with breath if you want, saying the mantra once on the inhalation and once on the exhalation. If you have another mantra you typically use for meditation, fine, use that. And just become absorbed, because we're really, a mantra is a unique form of the infinite in that by entering it, it takes us to its source. By the mind becoming absorbed in mantra, then the mantra takes it and absorbs it in the infinite, dissolves it in the infinite, leaves the mind and all that it contains behind. So enter the mantra fully, rest there. So we'll chant and we'll sit for a few minutes, and then at the end of the program we'll have some time to chat. Om Kali Durge Ma. 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 Now sitting in the stillness, the spaciousness of awareness that illuminates all the movements of the mind. When the mind is repeating mantra or repeating thoughts, what illumines it all? The light of awareness, the radiant one. Shift your attention to that alone. Om Kali Ma. Om Kali Ma. Om Kali Ma. Om Kali Durge 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 Ma. So we end with this prayer, that may all our practices truly benefit everyone, and may all beings know complete freedom from suffering. So may all the merit of our practices done this evening and done on our own also serve to help all beings become free of suffering. That is how we live our lives in accord with the truth of who we are, the generous nature of who we are, the boundlessly wise, compassionate, patient being that we are. That we live that, know that, and benefit others by radiating that into the world in our everyday lives. Jai Ma. And becoming immersed in the practices opens the door to the full knowing of the truth of who we are, just the other side of the mind. So all day long, stay enveloped in the throb of the infinite, that's mantra. Dedicate your actions to the selfless service of others. Meditate, become absorbed in the truth of who you are. Live it into the world. Thank you for being ones doing that. Thank you for coming this evening and sharing your presence and the power of your practice with others. Thank you for the ways that you support Ahamkara through donations and through sharing what we offer through our e-newsletters, our YouTube videos, the courses that we offer. So thank you for sharing those with others that we may serve all that many more people. Thank you. So once again, with all my heart, with all my love, thank you for joining us this evening. And I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.